Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. So today I have a watercolor speed paint process video for you guys, and as you can see by the title and as well as the thumbnail and I guess the sketch on the screen right now, I am going to be doing the Sailor Moon redraw. So if you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, you probably saw my finished piece for this, but I decided to show you guys the process because I thought it was a good opportunity, because like if it doesn't work well I'll just scrap it, but if it works well then great, a good video. So yeah, and I'm actually really happy how this one turned out. In general, I think it's been a while since I've had a watercolor illustration or like painting come out the way how I wanted, or in this case like more than what I expected. Oh, the lawnmower finally stopped running. So yeah, so basically I start off with a simple red sketch with my mechanical pencil, which is the Pilot Color ENO. After that, I lightly erase it with a kneaded eraser and go over it with just a normal HB mechanical pencil. And those will be my cleaner lines, which I will be using to pretty much indicate where I need to paint and like which sections or which. So yeah, so first off I usually start off with skin. I tend to section off everything just to make things look clean. It's not like my ideal way to work. If I could, I would like to be more confident with being able to lay down a whole wash for the whole thing and like create like a different atmosphere for it, but I guess that's not something I'm confident in. But yeah, because of this paper, like this is one of my favorite watercolor papers to use, but I don't use it like that often, nor do I use the sketchbook very often. So the sketchbook is a custom made sketchbook, and it is made by using Coptic stitch binding, and you can just search that up. I believe there's like a tutorial by C Lemon that shows you how to bind like different kinds of sketchbooks and stuff, and it's very helpful and very informative. But for this one I'm using Strathmore 500 series 300 GSM, I think, watercolor paper, 100% cotton I believe. And this paper, like, it's my favorite to work on just because like the way paint dries on it and how much time I have to fiddle with paint laying on the paper is just really nice. I've had other papers, like even like my 400 series, where the paint feels like it's just sucked in almost like immediately, and that's not my favorite. So luckily when I was using this paper, it slowly sucks into the paper and I'm able to change hue or value quite quickly by just adding almost like a few drops with my brush of a different color, and I can just let it naturally bleed through with the rest of the wet paint, which is quite nice. So it was easier for me to establish lighting for Sailor Moon's hair, which I actually really enjoyed. I think the painting of her hair is pretty much like the bulk of this video, and as well as gonna be like another speed paint that I have. Like painting the hair is like takes me the longest, as well as I have the most fun, I guess. I was struggling a little bit with skin. I didn't want to add too harsh of shadows on her, like the main part of her face. I didn't mind adding shadows like where the hair like reaches her face, like covers her face, but I was having issues of not making her face look too muddy or too harsh of a contrast between like the left side and the right side. So you can see me like adding color and then trying to blot it and soften it. But for the hair, I actually had a lot of fun adding like initially a lot of like yellow and gold tones, adding a little bit of brown in there to darken up and push some of the hair back a bit. Later on I add a little bit of purple, which is nice. Oh, okay. So for the choker part, I messed up. So basically I drew a heart initially, and after I was done painting up to this point, for some reason I decided to put the reference away, and my brain was like, oh, that her necklace probably is a crescent, right? Because it's like Sailor Moon, like there's a lot of crescent motifs and stuff. I didn't watch Sailor Moon like a lot when I was younger. I was very much like just informed about Sailor Moon. I knew what Sailor Moon was, I know about the Sailor Scouts and all that jazz, but I'm not like well tuned with their design per se, so I should have kept with the reference instead of straying from it and just guessing. I don't know why I just didn't pull it up. Like, my phone was right next to me, so I could have just easily went back into my gallery and looked for the reference again. But I changed it to a crescent, and that sadly needs to be covered. I will cover it like off video with gouache, because it was too hard for me to lift and change. So yeah, if that crescent bothers you, I'm really sorry. So another fun thing about this painting was the way I did eyes. So I did approach eyes a little bit differently. In the past, I would actually do a light wash of the color entirely over the eyes, like, you know, minus the white parts of the eyes and a little shine. This time I decided to do a bit of a gradient, so concentrating most of the color next to the shine part and then fading it out slowly. I decided to do this just to see if I can get a much clearer color and being able to change the eye style if I needed to, because I really like this style where there's no pupil involved. I've done this style like quite a bit, but once I added the pupil, I was like, oh, this looks pretty okay, I'll leave it in, and it looks a little bit more closer to my current digital style versus like my past digital styles where I used to never put pupils and it was just a simple gradient in the eye with a simple white shine. But overall, I really like this painting. As you can see, I'm deciding that I'm pretty much done with the face, so I'm deciding to put the line art for the face, add a little bit of shadow just to darken up a few areas, and adding in the line art at this point just helps me know that I can go a little bit darker with the skin. So as you can see, I'm adding a little bit more orange, a little bit more pink into her, like the cheek areas as well as like under the eyes, just to give a little bit more color. Yeah, darkening the eyes, and I think the eyes look really pretty at this point. I'm pretty sure I keep adding more stuff to the eyes, and I feel like I could have just left it, but ooh, my laptop fan. But yeah, I haven't done a voiceover in a while. I feel like I've recorded so many videos like in advance because I tend to have to bulk record voiceovers, and then I just upload everything and schedule it so that I will have time to find like a different opportunity to record voiceovers. So hopefully I have to be prepared to do about like 4 voiceovers in a row maybe. But yeah, so one thing I should have done in the beginning was add in the background color. Actually, I added a lot of like purples into like Sailor Moon in general, so like in the hair and the shadows of her skin a bit, and I feel like I changed it a little bit for the, actually it looks like I'm using mostly blues for her shirt and her like her sailor outfit, her uniform, but I used a lot of purples in her hair later, and I feel like it doesn't match the background as much. I fiddled with it a little bit in an editing program. Just when I uploaded it, I could change the saturation and the hue a little bit, but yeah, if for some reason I was able to make it look more a little bit more cohesive than I have it right now. As you can see, I'm adding in that purple, which I actually really like. So I was just trying to define certain areas and darken up like the, I guess it's the right side, her left ponytail technically. But yeah, so far I'm really liking even just watching my own speed paint. I feel like just painting the hair in general is just really satisfying to watch. Yeah, I don't know, there's like little things I could change and nitpick. Another part that I really enjoy is the, I don't know what they're called, but basically like where her ponytails go into like that bun, there's that red circle orb thing at the top. I really liked how I added the kind of this grayish purple to it, and it makes the red look just like even more shiny. I will add more like blues into it a little bit later, but for the most part, like just that one wash with the red, the little bit of purple and a little bit of blue just bleeding into each other looks really nice. I haven't done like a super long speed paint voiceover. I just saw the time that I have to fill the voiceover, 17 minutes, and I'm like, dang, I must have had a lot of footage. Granted, like, there were some pauses that I could have edited out, but I'm too lazy to edit the music again. Oh well. I was basically just ranting with my brother, so there was like sometimes I pause because I'm like, I need to face him when I'm talking, if I'm trying to make a point. So that's another thing. Touching up a bit of her, I guess is it a headband? I don't know what you would call that. But as you can see, the purple color that I used. So when I went to Japan last year around this time, I bought a lilac color, I believe, from Holbein, and it's slightly opaque, but I love mixing it with blues, so you get this kind of like a deep, rich purple. But because it's slightly opaque, I can layer it onto certain areas, and it helps knock back a few areas because it helps like darken it, but also make it look like faded, which is this is something I really like. So I started doing that a lot more in the hair after I put in the background, I believe, or it might be after I put in the line art. Like, you can really see a bit of a difference compared to the right side of the ponytail versus the left side that's exposed more to the light. Yeah, as you can see, I'm just adding a little bit more just to create a little bit more depth. I feel like the right side's my favorite, but like the left side of her bangs, really enjoyed that shine. I wish I used more of a purple color to shade in her, what is that called? The sailor uniform part, like the part that hangs around her collarbone area to her back. I wish I used more purples instead of like just it seems like a very monotone blue. I could add a little bit of like reddish purple here and there for shadows just to give it a little bit more interest. It looks very flat in my opinion, and very like, I don't know how to explain it. Like for the right side that's nearest to her arm that is shown, like, how do I explain this? The right side, maybe I'll put an arrow pointing to it. There's like 3 shapes that look like they're just following each other, and it's just like the value getting darker, and I just don't really like that part. I could have broke it up a little bit differently, and yeah, because it just looks really choppy in my opinion rather than looking like cloth. So as you can see now, I'm doing the line art for her hair and her eyebrows. This is just helping me define shape first. So usually I would do line art for a section that is about 80% done. Usually after when I do line art, depending on how dark or light the line art is, I will have to either lift or push more contrast or more value into certain areas, just because the line art does stand out quite a bit sometimes. Like in the lighter areas here, I think I'm trying to mix the lighter color, as well as I was trying to make more breaks in the line just to make sure that they didn't look too consistent and very blocky. But for the main part of her bangs and stuff, I believe like most of them are connected, they're fairly dark. I can add a little bit more definition because most likely I'm gonna darken up some areas, so I wasn't too afraid of adding too much of dark lines. And I think for the most part, like, it works, and it really helps with the shape of the hair, adding the line art. Okay, so this is like slight regrets, because I think at the point of me doing the line art for before wait, okay, so I don't know how much voiceover footage I lost, or audio, I guess. Apparently my 2 programs were competing in processor space, or like the amount of processor it needs, so Audacity decided to stop instead of my video, so I don't know if I lost audio, but if I did, I'll just add captions if I stopped in the middle of a sentence. I honestly don't remember what I was talking about. I think I was talking about the collar, I think. So basically for the collar part, when I was doing the line art for the crescent part, that's when I realized like I effed up. Like that's where I knew it was like, wait, it's actually a heart, isn't it? And I decided to fix it later. just because like I was more interested in just finishing this piece. So as you can see, I'm using a slightly larger brush. I'm using a size 12 brush to do the background, which is just a simple almost like turquoisey color to a I don't know what kind of color that would be. Basically I added more phthalo blue to the color, and yeah, got this really cool texture, a little bit of a nice blotchy gradient, but I kind of like it. It's a little bit plain, and I didn't want to add the grids in the back. For some reason, my reference photo, like, it was hard to see even the grid. So until I was finished this piece, I noticed that the grid was actually quite visible in other people's redraw. But I decided to just make it a little bit more sparkly, a little bit more magical. So I decided to use my white gouache. As you can see, I use gouache like straight from the tube, but my gouache tube is very much like somewhat dry at the front part of the gouache, just because I think it's been exposed to air more, but the rest of the tube is like just fine. But because of that, I have to dilute it with water, and sometimes that doesn't make stuff opaque enough, so it makes me have to sometimes go over certain areas like more than once, or like if you see me add gouache and then it fades and it seems like it disappeared, that's the reason why. But I use that to my advantage a little bit later. So I'm just adding strands of hair to Sailor Moon, as well as a few touch-ups in the eye, as well as in the stripes of her sailor uniform. So the diluted part worked really nicely here. I watered down my gouache, did the sparkles, and when it dries really like almost like crystal-like, because it's slightly transparent, and I think it looks really cute. But yeah, I hope you guys like this speed paint, and I'll talk to you guys next week with another sketching video. So yeah, bye!